Hello and good afternoon from Euston Station here in London. Today we'll be heading up the West Coast main line to Preston in Lancashire, travelling with Avanti West Coast. Now I'm really looking forward to this trip, as this is the first time I will be trying out Avanti's relatively new standard premium offering. But first, as always, we need to check out the station. Euston Station sits right at the very south of the West Coast main line, having originally opened way back in 1837. However, the current and rather infamous Brutalist building dates from the 1960s. As we enter, just to our left we have a large travel centre. Here you'll find self-service ticket machines as well as staff ticket counters. However, as usual, I won't be needing these today, as I bought my ticket online and in advance. Well, the concourse has certainly changed a bit since I last passed through Euston. The old dot matrix boards have now been replaced by these new LED displays. Now, I don't know about you, but I much prefer these. They're much clearer and brighter, making them way easier to read, for me at least. Anyway, as you can see, there are still plenty of shops and restaurants here, should you want to grab a bite to eat before starting your journey. If you're travelling in first class, the lounge can be found up here on the mezzanine level. For standard and standard premium passengers, they've recently added quite a bit of seating to the concourse here at Euston, so you don't just have to stand like you used to if you don't want to. Anyway, it'll soon be time to board our train. There are actually two Avanti services leaving for Preston in quick succession. There's the 1708 to Preston, which makes quite a number of stops and takes the scenic route, going via Birmingham. And then there's the train we're catching, the 1712, which runs fast, only making a couple of stops on the way to Preston, before continuing on to Glasgow Central. And with that, it's time to head down to platform 1 to board our ride up north.
London Western Railway service to Dornoff via Northampton. The train at platform 1 is at 17.
I always think boarding at Euston is a bit chaotic. There are only 3 gates for all passengers to use. Now, while this evening's service isn't all that busy, some of Avanti's trains can accommodate well over 500 passengers, so I dread to think what this would have been like were it a full service.
Thanks, Lynn. Thank you.
Use all the gates, please. All the gates.
Well, our ride up to Preston will be aboard this 11-car long Class 390 Pendolino. These originally entered service with Virgin Trains back in 2002, before Avanti inherited the fleet when they took over the franchise in 2019. With many of these sets now being over 20 years old, Avanti are currently in the process of giving these units a midlife refurbishment, and I was quite pleased when I found out that we'd actually be travelling aboard one of these refurbished sets this evening. Now, the train appears to have come in the wrong way round, as usually first class and standard premium can be found at the London end of the train. However, tonight they are at the northern end, so we now have a long walk down to Coach H. This reminds me of when I used to take the Caledonian Sleeper quite a bit, and I'd have to march the length of the platform here to find the Inverness portion. Anyway, without further ado, let's get on board and see just what these refurbished Class 390s are like. Well, at first glance, things are looking a lot fresher. The new LED lighting looks very good in my opinion. As you can see, standard premium is laid out in a 2+1 configuration, with almost all of the seats being part of a bay of 2 or 4. These are the exact same seats that you'll find in first class 2, the difference being that there is no meal service included for standard premium passengers, whereas this would be included in the price of a first class ticket. Now, I did have a seat reserved in a bay of 2 for this evening's trip. However, as standard premium is practically empty, I'm just going to plop myself down in an empty bay of 4. Right, before we head up north, let's just take a quick look at the route we'll be taking this evening. Our route will see us heading up the West Coast main line, running non-stop for the first 2 hours to Warrington Bank Quay, before stopping at Wigan North Western and finally Preston, covering a distance of 209 miles or 336 kilometres. Scheduled travel time is 2 hours and 28 minutes, and our top speed will be 125 miles an hour. And we depart Euston just a minute late at 5:15.
Once again, you can accommodate on first class is coach K at the front of the train.
The train honestly seemed to take ages to gather any sort of speed, initially just trundling our way north through the suburbs. Anyway, let's take a look at these seats, shall we? Actually, not a right lot seems to have changed in terms of the first and standard premium seats. Legroom is still really good, although they haven't changed the seat layout, so it would be. These new tables are a nice addition though. There are way more plug sockets than there used to be, and the tables even have wireless chargers built into them, which is nice. The seats themselves, bar the nice new headrests, appeared to be exactly the same as before. Now don't get me wrong, they are still pretty comfortable, but they appear to have just put the exact same seat coverings back on them as before, and a lot of the seats reclined still don't seem to lock as they should. Given that these trains are now around 20 years old, I thought that they might have replaced these. And lastly, you'll find a coat hook, window blind and reading light. Personally, I think it'll be interesting to see what these seats are like in a couple of years, as bar the headrests and tables, not a lot seems to have changed. However, be sure to let me know your thoughts on these seats in the comments below. Anyway, back outside, we've now made it as far as Milton Keynes. However, progress still seems to be rather slow, with very little time spent at 125 miles an hour. Right, time for a wander. These new displays are a nice touch, with plenty of information being shown regarding our progress. One thing that has changed as a result of the refurbishments is that there are now only 3 coaches of first and standard premium seating, as opposed to the 4 that there used to be, meaning that there's now an extra coach of standard class. Speaking of standard class, there's certainly no doubt that these seats here are new. They definitely look a lot fresher than the old ones. We'll take a look at one in just a moment. The luggage storage situation is the exact same as before, with racks being located in the saloons. Also, wheelchair spaces and the accessible toilets can still be found in coaches B, D and J. Well, I must say, the onboard shop looks a lot better now. Much brighter and easier to find things than before. I used to find that the old shop was just a bit hectic in terms of its layout. Right, as for the new standard class seats, they're almost identical to what you'll find on Lumo's trains. Legroom is good and every seat now has access to plug sockets. The seats themselves are pretty comfortable too, being nicely shaped and fairly well padded, and these headrests are an excellent addition too. A large extendable tray table is also provided. Overall, a drastic improvement from the old seats in my opinion. I believe that these standard class seats will also feature on Avanti's new Class 805 and 807 units when they enter service later this year. As for the toilets, again, not a lot has changed here, it just looks like they've been given a little bit of a refresh. That said though, everything was clean, well stocked and in good working order, which is always great to see. By the way, if you're looking for the likes of baby changing facilities, these can be found in the accessible toilets. Lastly, this train is Wi-Fi enabled, although with speeds like this, it might as well not have been. With that, now all that's left to do is kick back and enjoy my latte as we continue north. The coffee was really nice, by the way, and at £2.70, I guess it isn't complete daylight robbery as on-train prices go. Well, we have finally picked up some speed, although a lot of the time, this seemed to be rather short-lived. It was a very stop-start journey, this one. However, we do eventually pass Crewe on the fast line. See if you can make out the silhouette of the APT as we pass Crewe Heritage Centre just after the station. At long last, we arrive at our first stop of Warrington Bank Quay, currently running around 20 minutes late. A short time later, we arrive at our second and final intermediate stop of Wigan North Western. Well, I must say, I do have some rather conflicting views on the refurbishments of these Pendolinos. On the one hand, it's great to see that these trains are getting a midlife facelift, and there is undoubtedly an improvement in the level of comfort when it comes to standard class. However, reusing what are now 20-year-old seats in standard premium and first class certainly doesn't seem like the brightest idea on the part of Avanti to me. If I'm to be brutally honest, many of the seats were knackered before, and that still seems to be the case. As for the cost of today's trip, I paid £64.70 for an advanced standard premium single, including railcard discount of a third, booking 2 days in advance. Without a railcard, this would have been an eye-watering £98.10. To be honest though, I think that both prices are rather expensive for what's being offered here. Now, I did a quick search on LNER's website for a ticket from London to Leeds, which is a similar distance to what we travelled today, and first class is around £15 cheaper than this, even if you book on the day, and not to mention that this also includes lounge access and a meal once on board. So yeah, if I'm being honest, I'm a bit underwhelmed by what Avanti are offering here. However, these are just my thoughts and opinions, so do be sure to share yours in the comments below. And at last, we arrive into Preston 19 minutes late, at 2 minutes to 8. Well, I think I'll end the video here. I've got around 3/4 of an hour to wait here now until my connecting train to Bradford arrives. However, in the meantime, I do hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to help me out by giving it a like, commenting, and subscribing, as they all help the channel out. An extra special thanks as always to my fantastic patrons and channel members. If you want to join them in supporting the channel, you'll find the relevant links in the description below. With that, all that's left for me to say is thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you next Friday.